Hello and welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be doing some more Rory news on the news that's happened this week. Starting off proceedings this week, Emirates did announce to its customers that it was sorry for the, of course, record-breaking storms that hit the UAE. Not last week, but the previous week, Emirates did decide it was about time to apologise to its customers about what happened and many flight cancellations and delays. And the president of Emirates did announce to customers in an open letter that it was sincerely sorry for what it had caused to many of its customers after over 400 flights were delayed or even cancelled. Secondly, also this week, Transavis did announce they would be kind of threatening to leave Amsterdam Schiphol Airport after Amsterdam Schiphol said they wanted to close the airport during the night, and quite a lot of Transavis flights into Amsterdam do arrive at this time of night. And this is so they can still offer the, as what they say, schedule they want to give to their customers. And they're saying they may leave the Dutch market altogether. And if you take a look at the Transavis website, or even Flight Radar 24, it does show that a lot of their flights arrive at least between 1 or midnight to 3 AM, which is kind of how a budget low-cost airline would work, as we see this all across the globe, but mainly in Europe with Ryanair, EasyJet, Jet2 and TUI. And of course we did see this with JetBlue last year when they said they would leave Amsterdam Schiphol Airport. However, Amsterdam was able to work their way around it. But however, with Transavis it'll be different because they probably don't want slots between, let's say, 9 PM and midnight, because it would be easier for them to get slots between midnight and 3 AM in the morning, when that's not when many airlines tend to fly into Amsterdam Schiphol. Now, of course, this is to benefit the living area for people around Schiphol, but it's not going to be great for Transavis, and even a small airport like Eindhoven or Rotterdam probably couldn't compete or have the slots to be able to fulfill Transavis' needs. But we probably wouldn't see them move to Eindhoven or Rotterdam, as they don't want to move there because they said they would move themselves entirely from the Netherlands market, which has an impact on the airline, staff, and any airport really like Eindhoven or Rotterdam, who have got nothing to do with this problem, but they're going to leave the entire market altogether. So, well, we'll have to wait and see what happens with Transavis in the coming weeks, months, and maybe years. But well, maybe by the end of the year, Transavis might still be at Amsterdam, or if you're looking on this later, they might not be, and it might just be a Paris-Orly base. But we'll have to wait and see what comes with Transavis. Now, next, it's back to the drawing board again, as Boeing is yet again facing more problems. This being with the 787, as we said, after the whistleblower announced that there was problems surrounding it, it's now not being able to maintain healthy deliveries on the 787. And now, when Boeing sent a message out to its employees, it did say that there would be a small number of A787s that would be delivered, as in there would not be as many as they hoped for this year, which just puts an even bigger blow on the 787 and Boeing's attempts to get back on track in 2024. Now, Boeing says the reason for this is because they can't get parts for the 787, but who knows if this is actually true, but I'm not going to say much. So Boeing is effectively going to be slowing down 787 deliveries for we don't know how long, but we did see as we've seen back in 2021, a small production halt, very briefly, well, not briefly, for a couple of months, when the 787 was originally stopped deliveries back between 2020 and 2021, if I can remember correctly. And this is showing that Boeing is just coming to no breaks at all, as they're just coming with more and more problems day after day, is what it feels like for some people. So we'll just have to wait and see now what happens with Boeing yet again. And I think it's already safe to say that Boeing's had a pretty hellish 2024. Now moving on to Airbus, who is getting good news, as Airbus does get good news this year, as it's always had as good news. Now we see moving to Airbus as Robin Hayes, who was the CEO of JetBlue up until very recently, has announced that he'll be moving on to Airbus. Now, not Airbus in the Europe, but more, or in China for that matter, it is the Airbus in America. Now, he will replace the existing members that work here as of June 2024. So this is, again, good news for Airbus. Now, he does need to adapt to changing from buying planes or selling tickets as under a CEO to, of course, selling airplanes. So it is a massive switch, but he has to keep in the back of his head that Airbus also does space, helicopters, and even more military. So he does have to keep this in mind while he works at Airbus. And now he said that people that are, finding out about this news, it's mixed opinions from different people, but it wasn't always going to be people agreeing, since he is making a pretty significant switch in the aviation world. Now moving on to South African Airways, who have, as of the 29th of April 2024, so at the top end of this week, returned on their service from Johannesburg to Perth using an Airbus A340-300 for the route. Now, the aircraft will arrive into Perth at 19:35, so 7:35 p.m. in the evening, and then will remain on the ground for 2 hours and 20 minutes before making the return journey to, Johannesburg. And flight number is SA280, which will leave as we said, 2 hours and 55 minutes, 2 hours and 20 minutes, later, which is 20:55, so 5 to 9, and will arrive back into Johannesburg at 12:20 in the morning, a 9 hour and 25 minute flight. Now going down under to Bonza, and Bonza this week have cancelled operations, as you probably know. Their fleet of 4 aircraft are now without a buyer. And this only comes about a year, maybe about a year and a half after starting operations last year in 2023. And we believe problems may have escalated as the summer months of Australia's time kind of dried up. So now Bonza is no more, leaving Australia without an ultra low-cost carrier. And now moving on to Global, as Global are making some pretty exciting developments as they're entering the headlines again as their A380 has finally touched down in the UK. On Wednesday, the ex-China Southern A380 touched down at Prestwick after its flight from Mojave through Montreal. The aircraft will at some point this year reach Gatwick for the airline's a inaugural flight to, and I'm not quite sure where its inaugural flight is, but it will now fly to, probably as it's operated by Highfly, will likely operate or fly down to either Malta or out to Highfly's headquarters in Portugal. At this point it's unknown, but it will soon arrive in Gatwick for it to perform its first ultra low cost, well, not ultra low cost, but low cost A380 travel, and I suppose we're now going to see how far the venture will go. And now moving on to Boeing, and this time it's good news for Boeing this time, as Korean Air is looking at potentially buying some 777Xs. And this order would see 10 777Xs being delivered to Korean Air in the next couple of years if the order goes through. Now this order, if it goes through, does not come long after they place an order for Airbus A350s around maybe March or February time. So it is a bizarre move from the airline, but it can also make sense as they already do fly 777-300s, so it would make sense for them to be ordering the 777X to maybe replace those aircraft if that's not what the A350 was supposed to be doing. Now, it would also be good to add these aircraft into the fleet because, well, let's just say some of their older 777s, as they still operate the 777-300 non-ER variant, which are getting on at around 24 years old as the average fleet of the 777, and this is because of these older aircraft in the fleet. So I suppose if they get these and retire their 777-300, just plain 300s, then they could probably be able to maybe bring that average age of those 777s down a little bit more. Now, Korean Air is always in talks with manufacturers about buying new planes, so And the third-party source does suggest that this order might, as I've said, not even go through, and we could be getting our hopes up, and so will Boeing. But it could be nice to see this order go through, as it adds another tally of airlines to the 777X order book, and could maybe shine a little bit of good news onto Boeing. And now moving on over to JetBlue, and JetBlue have reported a massive loss for this quarter. And the loss was at $763 million, which is a lot of money to be losing out on. And JetBlue's whole yearly revenue will be down this year. And something I probably think the reason why this happened is probably because, well, let's just say JetBlue did have that failed merger deal with Spirit earlier on in the year. And because of this, the airline did have to pay $500 million for the breakup fee of the merger with Spirit Airlines in the earlier of the year. So it's just not been a first good quarter for JetBlue, and it probably won't be a good quarter for the rest of the year. And now moving on to Hawaiian Airlines, and Hawaiian Airlines now the latest victim of the Pratt & Whitney engine problems. And the airline reported their first quarter results, giving us a bit of an update on what will be happening with the A321neo. And they've said they hope to have all of them in operation within the coming weeks, is when they hope to have, or to see their A321neos back in revenue passenger service. Now, they're not as bad as some other airlines who are pretty cancelling their routes, but Hawaiian Airlines are doing the complete polar opposite of actually launching some more services with the aircraft than let's say, axing some services or suspending services for somewhat of the time being. But Hawaiian Airlines is definitely going to remain optimistic about about what's going to happen with their A321neos in the coming months. And now moving on to Condor, and Condor this week have taken delivery of their first A320neo. And this comes another important step for Condor, as they now show us this is their fleet becoming even more modern, and they're extending their loyalty to the Airbus family by taking delivery of this aircraft after their, let's say, A320neo, or just A320 family with Airbus has stretched a long time, as they do operate the CO version of the family as well. Now, the aircraft was taken delivery on by a lease from Avalon, is what we have said is about the Condor's lease is with the aircraft. And May the 15th being the aircraft's entry into service date. So you might want to be watching your phones on flight radar, as on May 15th it will fly to Palma de Mallorca in Spain. And now all the airline needs to do now is wait and get their A321neo, which will be arriving at the airline soon or later, as these aircraft will be replacing the A320ceos that are in the fleet of Condor already. And the Boeing 757-300s are also in the fleet as well. And now moving on to the final topic of the week, which is the Boeing 777X. And this is with Lufthansa. After the Lufthansa CEO said they will not be expecting 777X deliveries, or this of any airline being expecting 777Xs until 2026. Lufthansa said they will not be expecting their first 777X until the earliest of summer 2026. And if you know, that's still 2 years away, as we just entered summer 2024. So again, it's another heavy hit for Boeing, as again deliveries are again slipping. This making the aircraft now 6 years behind its original EIS, which is entry into service. So Boeing this year is also just not having a really good year. So it's again another heavy hit for Boeing, and as Lufthansa was expecting their first 777X come next year. However, the airline has now said this will not be happening until 2026. And Boeing says this is still because the FAA just won't seem that they want to certify the 777X and still want to conduct many things over the next few years. And there you go, that's been your news for this week. I know it's been a much longer video than normal, but again, that was me babbling on about Transavis. So I would like to thank you very much for watching today's video, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.